This controller is absolutely awesome. This is the GameSir Cyclone 2. Yes, the second one, and yeah, this is freaking awesome. So this is a multi-platform controller by GameSir, and there's two variants of it. One where it's just the controller alone, and then one that comes with this little dongle dock and charging station that literally just sits on your desk like this and then charges it up like that. And then when you lift it off, it automatically wakes the controller and goes to the receiver just there. So this is actually an extension as well. Now there's two different prices. You've got the controller alone, which comes in at £41, or I think about $50, or you've got the one with the charging docky station thing, which comes in at $55 or £45. That's a really good price for all the features and specs that this controller has. And to go over those, let's go over the box. So we've got high precision TMR joysticks, we've got tactile, crisp yet cushioned face buttons, we've got micro switches in the triggers as well as Hall effect analog triggers, we've got anti-slip laser texture grips, we've got a 3.5mm headphone jack, 2.4 gigahertz dongle, two macro back paddles and motion controls, as well as swappable face buttons via software, so that you've either got like a Nintendo layout or an Xbox layout. We've also got turbo and macro features, and one thing they don't put on the box, which really surprised me, is the fact that this has a 1000 hertz polling rate. So before we go over the controller, let's take a look at this dock. Now this is actually like a metal here, so I thought it was going to be just straight up plastic, but it's not. It is metal with anti sort of like, you know, slip feet on the back. We then have a USB-C connection on the back just there, which plugs in here. Then you have the USB-A 2 gigahertz or 2.4 gigahertz dongle that slides in there. We've got the pins just there that connect to the back of the controller, and then two little like shoes so that, you know, it wears shoes when you put the controller on it. Gives it like little feet. Now, yes, this is an extra $5, £5. Is it worth it? Well, for me, yeah, because I'd be using this on PC mainly, right? So I'd have this routed around and plugged into my PC. And that means the 2.4 gigahertz dongle just here is actually easily accessible. So I don't have to like reach around the back of my computer or whatever to get this. And it also acts as an extender. So, you know, it basically extends the length and gives you better sort of line of sight, if you will, to the controller if you've got this on the side plugged in. So I, for one, quite like that. You know, I'm a big fan of docks that actually double up as a dongle extender. Really annoys me when there's just like a charging dock or whatever that comes with a dongle, but then it isn't an extender. Like there's just a missed trick. Whereas, you know, GameSir know that and they've done right here. Now let's take a look at the controller. So yes, we've got this controller right here. It comes in two colorways. We've got the white one, which is like a frosted white, and you can see the RGB LEDs underneath. Now with the light off, it's actually way more dramatic, you know, very, very much so. And it looks very much like the GameSir Collide inside RGB LED lights that went around. We checked that controller out previously, and it's pretty much the same kind of layout and everything, but wireless. So yeah, we've got frosted, and it's the same with the black one as well. Underneath here, we've got a GameSir logo, which is actually really nice because it's a bit more subtle. So it's a nice shiny one just there. We've got the 3.5mm jack. We've got our tactile D-pad just here. I don't think it said that on the box. We do absolutely have anti-friction rings around the joysticks, as well as metal anti-friction rings around the stems of the joysticks. Yes, these are removable, the joystick caps, but whether or not they sell separate ones, I'm unsure, and they're all different. This is one thing that annoys me with like all controlling manufacturers. They're all different. Why not have like a standardized key so that they just are all interchangeable? That kind of frustrates me, but that's not just GameSir's problem. That's just the industry's problem, I guess. But regardless, they've done right by putting anti-friction rings and metal anti-friction rings. That is just an absolute win in my book. And pair that up with TMR Hall effect sticks right here. You've got an absolutely excellent experience. More on that soon. Face button wise, we've got convex buttons, so they bubble outwards, right? They don't go inwards, they bubble outwards, and they do follow the slope of the controller. So that travel between your thumb from X and B is naturally going down in that curve, which is ergonomically like correct. You don't want it being flat because that's not actually right. So it following the curvature of the actual controller is a win. We've got the GameSir light at the top just there, and it does change color depending on how much charge you've got and everything like that. We've got start, select, whatever they call them these days. You've got the screenshot button. We've got a macro button as well. On the top, we've got our USB-C in case you want to use it wired or charge it up via here if you don't actually buy that little docking station down there. We've got our bumpers just here and our triggers, which, yes, are transparent, which is awesome. And they've got a little trick. Do you see that? That little switch just there? That little switch, if I kind of get my nail on it and switch it round, turns it into an actual digital switch with a mechanical micro switch in there, right? And if I get that again and switch it over, it's now back to an analog Hall effect switch. And despite the fact that we've got that switch there, there's also a software like mod that lets you then put hair trigger mode even on the analog side of it. Again, customizable in the app, which we'll go over. So there's actually like 3 different trigger modes just here. You've got like the normal analog one. You've got that little dial that you switch over and then it goes into a clicky like hair trigger, or you can do a software hair trigger on the full analog Hall effect trigger just there. Now, I, for one, personally love micro switches. I love that satisfying click, the ching, you know, as you've pressed it. And for FPS games, it is an absolute win because there's nothing quicker than just pressing that button, and you can spam it as well, like much easier than having this big flappy paddle. I prefer these for just like action games and racing games where you need to like, you know, access the throttle via this. But on an FPS game, clicking that clicky is so much better. There is a little tiny bit of a downside here though, and it's not a downside for me, I'm just picking it up because I know some of you may suffer from this, is it is quite literally a switch on the trigger itself. And I would say if you do not have nails, then this is going to be quite hard for you to get. Like, it is designed to be hit with your nails, and I know not everyone does. So, you know, it's going to be a bit difficult for those without nails. I kind of wish it was a switch here that was a bit easier to just push than having to like force your nail to do it. But again, for most, it's probably not a problem. For some, it might be a problem. Overall, I've not had a problem with this myself. Now, on the top as well, we have these rails, and we see this quite a lot, but they didn't say anything about it, and they don't give you anything in the box for it. But I know it is for the aftermarket, like third-party accessories that you can stick and slide on the top, which is usually like a clamp, right? This is what you buy. It's literally a hand. No, it's a clamp that clamps your Switch or your Ally or whatever it might be, or a little phone if you're doing like, you know, remote play, and you can do that there. I kind of wish that they gave you one, because I mean, it's just literally a bit of plastic, but whatever. It's a fairly affordable controller, so I don't blame them for not doing that, but it's got the option, right? On the back, we've got more transparent goodness, and then we've got these back paddles, as well as you can see the like wireless charging, if you want to call it that, right? The pin slots for the battery just there. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Now, what you might not see is here is actually really grippy textured grips. Now, the whole controller is actually plastic, but it is really good. And despite those little switchy bits, it does not rattle at all. And it is super grippy without having any rubber. It's just straight up plastic. So it's not going to go sticky and horrible. I legit love the way this feels in my hands. It feels so nice. Like, it's not like scratchy and horrible, but just really grippy, like really grippy. And it's only from here down. It's only on the horns, and the same on the back as well. It's a really nice feeling controller, and the ergonomics of it feel lovely. Once you've got this locked into your hands, like, it just feels very, very nice. Before we go over to the GameSir app where you can just change everything, let's just test some bits. So the face buttons are cushioned, but they are mechanical, so they still give you that satisfying click, and they are lovely. I really, really like the feel of these. I'm a big advocate for mechanical face buttons, just because they're so fast to actuate, so quick to return, very accurate, and they generally have a bigger lifespan over membrane. So membrane typically have like a 1 to 2 million lifespan. These have 5 million in this, and yeah, I just prefer it. But they do make a click, so some of you might not like that, and that is the same for the D-pad. These also have like a switch under there, so it's very clicky, but again, quick to actuate. So the bumpers are more mushy, but they are consistent with each other, so that's fine for me. I don't mind a bit of mush as long as it's consistent everywhere. The back paddles then are actually consistent as well, which I was surprised about because quite often you'll get one side that's more mushy than the other, but these are actually very sort of consistent. It would be quite nice to see some mechanical switches underneath some back paddles. So as you can see in the controller tester here, everything's, you know, responding and actuating as it should. The triggers are great. If I switch this over to the hair trigger mode, you can see that that's an instantaneous click, right? Which is awesome. Switch it back to the analog mode and you can see it working its analog magic. Face buttons as well. Like there's no pre-travel, a little bit of post-travel, but honestly, you don't really notice that at all. If I press down on the D-pad and hold left, no input, hold right, no input. So it acts kind of like a 4-way, even though it's an 8-way. But if I press a really hard rock left, then I can actuate these side movements or up and down, but I can't get down. Oh no, I can, but I'm really pushing through the controller to do that. If I'm just playing normally, there's no way I'd like do that. I'd really need to give it some force like that to do that. Now with the joysticks, how they are defaulted, they come with a circular dead zone, right? So they are not raw mode out of the box, but you can enable that on the controller and also in the app, but let's just test the circularity. So I've done this multiple times. It's about a 0.1% error rate, which is exactly what I'd like to see. Super, super low error rate. So if I press M and then press in one of the sticks for a second, it's going to vibrate. And now you can see I'm overshooting compared to the right. So the left one overshoots, but the right one doesn't. So the right one here has a circular outer dead zone. The left one has now gone into raw mode. So let's test this again. Now you might be seeing this and going, oh, okay, you've got almost an 11% error rate on the left there. But yes, that is actually raw mode. So I'm getting true diagonals here rather than this one, which has a dead zone applied to it. So even though it's about a 10%, 11% error rate, that is actually really good for a raw mode input. And you've got the choice there by pressing M and pressing the stick in until it vibrates. And now if I just do that again, I've gone back to that 0.0 here, but it is a 0.1, there you go, 0.1 error rate on the outer dead zone just there. So really good, you know, very, very good in terms of how everything feels, how everything inputs. The joysticks being TMR means no drift, and they're actually more accurate than standard Hall effect. So the TMR sticks are like the new thing, and they're really, really good. Lower power consumption, higher accuracy. They're just really good sticks, and these ones in particular, really good. And the fact that this is actually an affordable controller with some solid TMR sticks in it, nice one, GameSir. Now let's check out the app. So this is the new one, GameSir Connect. And yeah, I load it up and we've got the T3 Pro, which we covered before, but when I had that, the app wasn't like compatible. So that's why I didn't show this app in that review, but it is now and it's working with this one. It shows me the battery life. If I click into it, boom, you've got loads of stuff here and we can go through each thing individually on the like home page just here, or I can click into one thing. So let's go to lights, for example, and then you can actually cycle through with the controller, which I think is a nice touch if you're on PC or whatever. So let's just go from buttons first. We've got all the remappable buttons here. So I can just click on one and remap to one of their preset settings, or I can go to advanced settings and I can really tailor this in with a mouse input, a keyboard input, a numeric like number pad input, or a controller input, which I really do like that you've got all this choice here, which is going to save it to the profile, which you can then switch with the M button, and these lights will change like for that. You can do it within the app as well. If I go over to the sticks, then you've got serious customization here. So you've got dead zone, you can see it applied just here as well. So you've got an initial dead zone of what, 10%. So you can actually click in that and go down or up, you know, so I can go up and down with the joystick, or do it incrementally by 1 with the D-pad. So you can completely eradicate the entire dead zone, but then obviously that's going to leave you to very, very, very low, well, no dead zone whatsoever. So you might get miss inputs there. Typically you want probably a 5%, maybe a 10%, but you can tailor that. And the same with the max point, you can actually change the outer dead zone as well. If I press B, I can go down and go to the anti-dead zone there, or curve adjustment. So you can actually tailor your own curves or make your own curve just here as well, which is awesome. And if I go back into that, we can go down and we can change that circular outer dead zone to raw mode, and then you can see in that little sort of diagram there that I'm overshooting on the diagonals, giving true diagonals just there, which is pretty cool to see. If we go over again, we've got motion. So this is all gyro stuff. So you can really tailor everything here. You've got activation method. You can even bind it to hold to turn on, and then you can choose a button. So if you wanted to, and loads of people love this for FPS games, when you aim down sights, so that would be like your L trigger, you can map that to gyro so that when you're holding L trigger, left trigger, then gyro activates to give you like more precise precision when aiming. And then when you let go, you don't have any gyro anymore. I think that's a really cool feature. And the fact that you can seriously tailor this to anything that you want is such a cool feature. I really like that. So you can go through here and tailor absolutely everything you want. Again, more curve adjustments, everything here. If we go across to triggers, same thing again. So you can change the outer, inner dead zones. You've got curvatures, you've got hair trigger modes here, which you've got an adaptive one. So that is then going to be 0 to 100% as soon as I input just here, and there is an initial dead zone, so I could turn that off so that it's as soon as I touch it. So that there's a small dead zone just here, but again, tailorable in the app. If I go to fixed mode, it won't actuate until I've hit the bottom part. So the first one's like as soon as you touch it. The next one's as soon as it's reached the bottom, or off will keep it analog, but obviously I can just switch it on the trigger itself, right? With the physical swap just there, and then that's going to go into that button swap just there. And then if we carry on, we've got vibration just here, so you can change the levels here. Now, this is the only downside I've got on my unit. Now, I have to say I've actually had this unit for well over a month, like a long time, like a month before release, because they sent me this over. So this is like a pre-release sample, and the only thing wrong with this sample is the fact that my left and right rumble motors are slightly out. So they're both at 50%, let's say. One of them's at 50 and the other feels like it's at 40. That is it. That's the only issue I've got. I can't say whether the retail models will be like that because, again, this is a pre-release unit, but I thought I'd bring it up anyway. Then we've got the lights, and yeah, you've got different RGB presets just there. You can click through them. You've got so many different presets on this because you can really tailor exactly what you want. You've got flow, rainbow, pulse, standoff, alarm, you've got speeds, you've got colors, you've got audio reactive mode, pick up to wake, sleep on timer, and all that crazy stuff. There's a lot going on here, and again, you can see it all from the homepage bit here, but one bit you can't do when you're like in one of those modes, it has to be on this homepage, is the report rate. So the polling rate, you've got 250 hertz, 500 hertz, or 1000 hertz polling rate, so they've actually got that here to do, but it comes default at 1000 hertz via that dongle. So I didn't have to do anything. It was just at 1000 hertz. So 1000 hertz polling rate, that's just how quickly it sends like the data, the inputs to your device. So when you press the button, it's how quickly that input then transfers to your device. So 1000 hertz polling rate is really high. Now, yes, you can tailor loads of this stuff as well through the app into different profiles that you can switch from, and there are onboard shortcuts so that you can hold M and then up and down, or on the sticks, things like that. You can adjust the rumble, you can change whether it's a hair trigger or not, like artificially via that software that I was saying, rather than having to do that switch. You can enable raw mode on the sticks. There's a lot, but one thing that isn't there anymore, even though we've got a 3.5mm jack, is you no longer have like audio mix or like volume control via the M button. It doesn't bother me, but on some of their other products that is there, but we don't have that on this one. Now we've got 3 different turbo rates as well. So if you press M and then a button, it will then, as you're holding down that button, do that button input for you multiple times. So you've got like a slow, medium, and a fast mode, but there's no mode of auto hold. You must press and hold it. So yeah, you can't just press it once and then leave it and it will just do it for you continuously. It's only whilst held. So that is the turbo. And the same goes for macro. We can button swap any button to the back there by pressing and holding M and then tapping the button that you want to assign, right? And then you press the button you want to assign to that back paddle and then press the back paddle again, and then that will button swap. So I could put A to that back paddle or like whatever input to the other one just there. And it does have macro. Now, I can't see anywhere that says exactly how many inputs that you can macro, but it is a lot. So I could, put it into record mode, press A, B, X, Y, triggers. It even records joystick inputs as well, which is awesome. D-pad inputs, whatever. And then press that again, press it, and then it will go through and do that macro perfectly. And it remembers how quickly you've pressed stuff. So if you press A, waited a bit, A, and then B, 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 and then assigned it to the back pedal, it will remember the timings as well, which is awesome. Really like that. So what do I think of the GameSir Cyclone 2? I genuinely love it. I really do. I think this is freaking amazing. For £40 without that stand, or £45, $50 or $55 with that stand, I think that's genuinely awesome. The features you're getting in here are fantastic. The rumble, I know I glossed over it, but the rumble is a nice, heavy, swoopy rumble. It's not that horrible, tinny, buzzy rumble that like rattles the chassis. None of that. This thing feels premium. The actual solidness of this plastic doesn't feel cheap or anything. It fits in your hand lovely. The grip is fantastic. It is so nice in the hands. Everything's great for me personally because I love micro switches and they're cushioned as well. We've got TMR joysticks in this controller, which are fantastic with the option of raw mode or no raw mode. You've got that tactile D-pad, which not everyone's going to like, but I do like it. We've got multiple trigger modes and I love these transparent triggers as well as the fact that that micro switch just there is there. Love it. Everything on this is just awesome. You've got gyro as well if you want. So yes, this is multi-platform, iOS, Android, Switch, and PC. This is gonna work. Do I think it's worth it? Yeah, yes I do. I genuinely am shocked by GameSir every single time I check out one of their controllers. They always do something awesome. I don't think I've seen a single controllers of theirs yet that sucks. They each do something amazing. Even their absolute lowest budget ones are good, but this is a fantastic sort of mid-range controller price point. I think anyone would be happy with this as their main controller, or if you want a really good second controller for someone else to play with, the GameSir Cyclone 2 is awesome. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and whilst you're down there, like this video, subscribe, become a member, and you can sometimes see these videos early and you get to talk to me and AJ over on our private Discord. Talking of AJ, check out our podcast over here and check out another video from me down here. Bye.